welcome to the last week of school. Start sharing my screen. There you go. You might recognize that background from one of the award-winning image filter assignments this semester. I actually was browsing around for some new Wallpaper Engine backgrounds. I'm like, oh, it's the one from my class. That's it. You know, and they wrote an image filter for it. So it's obviously Nezuko-chan from Demon Slayer. Favoritism, whatever. If I saw, anyone's background just like pop up on Wallpaper Engine, I'm like, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll display it. Art is art. Yeah, don't accuse me of being a weeb or something. How did you do the snow? That's a Wallpaper Engine effect to it. So the blinking and the snow. And the thing back there, yeah. So the Wallpaper Engine allows you to add warping and particle effects and things like that to backgrounds. It's not too large either. Like I think this was like 15 megabytes or something to download this one. Some Wallpaper Engine backgrounds, by the way, are like absurdly large. Because some of them are just videos. Like it's just a video recording of the 4K background, and that can, yeah. Let's see if I have example of that. Yeah, this one's a gigabyte. So this background here is literally just a I don't know, it's like a minute long video that's just on loop, and it's a 4K, it's a minute long 4K video, so it's a gigabyte or so. Kind of pretty though. This one's 8 megs, so it's a 4K image with some animated lighting effects and some warping on the water. Yeah. So it really just depends on the thing. Yeah, this one's 14 megs. Yeah. Kind of cool. Screensaver, no. My screensaver is my screens turn off. Full GBS. Yeah, Wallpaper Engine. Bunk, though? Why is it bunk? What's the matter with Wallpaper Engine? It's like my number one most played game on Steam, I think. Let's see if I can find my hours. 128 hours in Wallpaper Engine. I don't know exactly how it counts that because I can't imagine I've had it open for that long. But yeah, I don't know how they estimate it because it runs in the background all the time. Can you send us the Nezuko background? It is. I just closed it. It is called Nezuko Komodo. So. Let's see if I can share it. Copy, maybe? Copy URL, copy to clipboard. So, there you go. There's the link. All right, so like I said, I'll take requests for topics for today and tomorrow. But we do need to talk about exceptions. That's not too hard a topic. Some of the labs were hidden on Zybooks. Those are now available, so you should be able to do those. Cybersecurity or something like that? Yeah, we could do that. Quick question. Somebody said, what is the worst thing? Niles asked, what is the worst thing I got paid to code? Man. Nothing like really stands out as like horrible. Like I've worked with other people's code that was badly written and stuff like that. For example, we used a graphics card made by this company down in Australia. And they really just didn't document their code at all. Like they gave us a bunch of functions. If you want to do particle effects, it's this function call. But they didn't say what the different parameters meant. So there'd be like a parameter for like duration, right? It's a float. Okay. Is that seconds? Is it milliseconds? What does it mean? And so I'd have to just guess a number and then run it and nothing would happen. And then I'd guess another number and it would instantly go from red to black. And I'm like, okay, something happened. But that wasn't 1 second and I put a 1 in there. Maybe that was 1 millisecond. Like there's just no documentation on anything. And I had to just basically guess all the different values and just make something work from that, which was really really annoying. I wouldn't say that's like the worst thing to get going, because I was making video games and stuff like that. Like it was fun. Yeah, nothing like I've never done anything immoral with coding or whatever. Like we were approached by a casino to do like a virtual reality slot machine. I might have told you guys about this, where you'd run around in these mechas destroying buildings. You collect parts of the casino's name, and if you collected them all, you'd win $1 million. But the thing would be rigged, so you would never win it. Basically. And we didn't do that. My boss wanted to do some adult things with the virtual reality experience, so those never materialized either. Hardest code I did this year, probably writing a Doom style renderer in a class period. Which I'd never done one before. Like it's not like I was just like knocking another one out. Like I'd never done it before. I knew how Doom did its rendering, but I had never actually tried coding one before. And so you can watch the video for that. That'd be spring of 2021. Let's see here. 50B spring. Yeah, this one. So in 2 hours. Daughter in the background. Yeah, so you start off by just building it from Hello World. And so this is the map editor. So you basically just have a 2D vector. And these indicate walls, and these indicate spaces. And then you just built it up one step at a time. And adding in, WASD movement. So every time you hit W, it moves forward. Every time you hit A, left arrow, right arrow to turn. Rotations. Doing trace lines, so you could see, you could shoot things and also see how far away a wall is and things like that. And then, so it was about an hour in. Reacting to a reaction video, of myself. It's like very meta. And then I start off with no rendering, just WASD, and it would tell you what position you were, what angle you were looking at, how far you were to the wall, and we just kind of ran around and made sure all that worked first. And then 20 minutes later, we had walls in. There you go. And you can see as you rotate around the crash. Yeah. And then another 10 minutes after that, we had shading and colors and talking about doing anti-aliasing, stuff like that. Yeah. So, yeah, that was a fun thing. I'll post the link for that if you're interested. If you want to watch how to do that. That's second semester game development. Let's see, copy link. Let's see here. Share, copy. Yeah, so I'm fairly proud of that one. Doesn't have any texturing and things like that, but kind of has lighting, kind of. Doesn't actually do any lighting calculations, but things that are closer are brighter, so it sort of simulate. You can kind of tell distance that way. I should probably edit this thumbnail on this, huh? Looks a little more impressive. Those are the thumbnails, huh? There we go. That'll be the new thumbnail. All right. So yeah, you can kind of see how that goes over 2 hours. Extra credit for all the thumbnails. Nah, students submitted thumbnails last semester, and then I just never went to the effort of actually uploading them. So it's kind of pointless. Last year I did. I just found placeholder art and just never ended up substituting it out with anything. How to hack your server? What's the password? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So security is. Yeah. Sure. We can talk about security. Let's do that. Security talk. All right. Sure. So. Sure. How to make your own server? Sure. Why not? So the ACM is the Computer Science Club on campus. And we have another talk, by the way, on Friday. That's going to be probably the last talk of the semester, and then there's going to be a meditation workshop on Saturday, probably around 12:30, something like that, at Woodward Park. Show the PowerPoint. There you go. Okay. So if you want to have stuff on your resume or something, you can run for ACM officer or something like that. It's all very fuzzy right now because everything's online, but we're going to be going back in person in the spring. By the way, for the spring, there's like 13 students enrolled in the in-person, and there's 47 enrolled in the online. So if any of you guys are planning on just being in person, I would switch so that the classes don't get canceled. It's because of the time. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I know some of you were like, I'll go to the in-person one, but I'll register for the online one. If you're going to do that, just sign up for the online one. We need in-person fits your schedule. Good. Yeah, so just, if you can, switch over. It's not a big deal. It just doesn't look good having 13 people in a class like that. Your Seaside 45 at City got canceled. Yeah, enrollment's down a lot due to the pandemic. Computer science isn't, so that's cool. We've actually had growth in computer science this year, whereas I think district-wide it's down about 20%. Like, it's actually a pretty significant drop, So your calculus too has 13 as well. Yeah, they may or may not cancel it because there's still plenty of time for people to add before the semester starts. But yeah, if you can switch, if not, it's not a big deal. All right, so ACM, yeah, it's the world's largest computer science society. The computing machinery, you can tell how old it is because it's the Association for Computing Machinery. Pretty old term. All right. Okay. So let's talk about espionage. That's a fun topic. I got a book here, which you may be interested in. If espionage and computer espionage in particular interests you, it's called Cyber Spies by Gordon Carrera, and it talks about like Huawei and how the People's Republic of China engages in the Red Army, or whatever it's called, engages in corporate espionage, things like that. Share the book in chat. I can't share the book in chat, but it's called Cyber Spies. There. So, there you go. So by Carrera. Good book and full of interesting stories. Kevin Mitnick has a lot of Kevin Mitnick, famous hacker. He was caught hacking my the place I worked, actually, the San Diego Supercomputer Center. They were the people that caught him. And there's a whole long story behind that as well. Read it to you. So to do espionage is to spy on somebody. Usually it means you want to find out secrets they want to keep secret. Like the U.S. government presumably doesn't want you to know where their nuclear bombs are, because then you could, go in and sabotage them or drop a rocket on them or something like that. So that's what spies do. Spies try to find out things that people want to keep hidden. And computer espionage is when you use computers for that. So a lot of different ways to spy on people. And there's different kind of threats, right? Like there's nation level threats. Like if the NSA wants to find out like where you're going to be meeting for lunch tomorrow, that's a completely different story than like your coworker trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? So the NSA has unbelievable amounts of resources and algorithms and backdoors and things like that they could use. Among other things, they broke into the company that produces the private keys for cell phones and stole about what amounts to about a third of all the private keys for all cell phones in the world, right? And so if you've ever heard about RSA encryption or like public key cryptography and things like this, they're all secured using private keys, but the private keys have to stay private or it doesn't work. And so they're like, we'll just go to the source, and they got a copy of like millions and millions of private keys. And so there you go. So join the village, hidden in the web, and become an internet shinobi. That's funny. And so that's a different threat level than like when your nosy coworker down the streets wants to know where you go for lunch every day. You know, but at the same time, she probably has, you know, options the NSA doesn't have. Like she could just ask around, you know, without looking suspicious. You know, hey, where does Bill go for lunch every day? You know, or she could follow me in her car. You know, like, you know, if I see her at Namikaze, I'd be like, oh, hi, you know, it doesn't look weird. Whereas a person in a trench coat and glasses would stand out, you know, and they're staring at me eating sushi or whatever, you know. So, it's there's different threat levels is what I'm trying to get at, and all sorts of interesting stories about that, which we'll probably get into a little bit. Cryptography, though, is the way of sending a secret message. Okay, so the whole point of a secret message is that nobody can read it except the person you want to read it, right? So if you've heard of public key cryptography, basically journalists can post their public key on the web, and you encrypt an email to them using their public key, and then the only person who can decrypt that is somebody who has the private key. Cool. So it's a great way of securely doing email. Or if you've heard of SSL or TLS on the web, it's the same kind of idea. You do a key exchange, and then you can send things to them, and they can send things back to you, and nobody can intercept, or they can intercept, but it doesn't help them. Right? They can't decipher the messages. The 3 cryptic codes, yeah, that's fun. They have this little monument with like these secret messages on it and stuff like that. It's pretty fun. So, you know, back in the day, there were these things called like Caesar ciphers and things like this. I misspelled Annie. There you go. So, basically, you substitute one letter for another letter, right? In this case, it moves 7 letters to the right. If you move 8 letters to the right, then 9 letters to the right. Yeah. And so I've written programs before to do Caesar cipher encryption and decryption also, which is kind of fun. It might be a fun thing for you guys to work on over break. Like write a program that will decipher a Caesar cipher. That's kind of fun. You can count how many times each letter appears. You guys know how to do histogramming now, right? Unordered map between a character and a count. Every time the character appears, increment the count. And then based on the counts of letters, the most common letter in English is E, right? And then you're like, all right, that one's probably E. And then you can make a guess based on the relative word count, the letter counts, and do a first pass on it. And then you can go into manual mode and have the person say like, I bet that's an R, you know. And I've written that before. It's a fun little exercise to do. The most common word is the. Yeah, so you can both look at it at the letter level and the word level. There is on Unix systems a dictionary you can use. here. So user share dict words. It's a dictionary. There's different dictionaries you can install. Like, zebra or Azerbaijan. Zerba. Zebra. Try that. There we go. Yeah, so like all the English words are in there. And so what you can do is use that as well and try to see if the thing is deciphering correctly. And yeah, it's pretty fun. It's fun assignment. So hacking is also known as cracking. For years, hackers were trying to call security intrusion crackers. That never took on. Calling somebody a cracker just doesn't have the same bite as calling somebody a hacker, So, yeah. So the reason why there's these two terms is because a hacker traditionally didn't mean somebody who violates security. It just means somebody who's like a whiz with computers. So at MIT, they had the MIT hackers, and they would do, like, you might have heard of like a life hack or something like that, right? That's not violating security. That's like a clever solution to something. And so the hackers prided themselves on coming up with clever solutions in the software and the hardware world and stuff like that, which sometimes involved bypassing security measures, and so the term ended up sticking. So a hacker is today somebody who violates security, but for a long time the MIT hackers tried to rebrand security violations as cracking instead of hacking. But yeah, I've never heard the media call somebody a cracker. So how do you prevent yourself from being hacked? First of all, firewalls are like your first line of defense. Most internet routers and things like that these days that connect you to the internet have a firewall on them, which are turned on by default. And so people on the internet can't connect to my computer here by default. Okay. If you tried, even if you had my IP address, if you tried connecting to my computer, the firewall would be like, yo, buddy, I've never heard of you before, and block it. Okay. So unless you can compromise my firewall, which is maybe something the NSA can do if they have a list of backdoors for internet gateways and things like that, it's possible for the average person not. So don't turn off your firewall. And then Windows, there's also Windows Firewall, and there's you can buy like portable routers and run a firewall through them if you're at Starbucks or something and you're worried about people at Starbucks hacking you. You can get your little personal Wi-Fi router and route through that so that people can't connect to your computer. You can connect to them, they can't connect to you. And so the way that a firewall works, by the way, how are we talking then if it blocks all incoming traffic? Well, what a firewall does, and this is also, I'll just say firewall. There's more technical terms, but basically it does what's called NATing, NAT, network address translation. And so what happens is, like, let's say I'm connecting to Discord right now. So what happens is I send a packet to Discord saying like, yo, I want to log in on Discord. And then Discord sends back a packet like, all right, send me your username and password. When that response comes from Discord, the firewall is like, hey, you're responding to a packet that Bill just sent out. And so it allows it in. So the firewall writes down all of the hosts that I'm connecting to and then allows those hosts to respond back, is basically what it amounts to. And if anybody else tries to spoof a packet from those hosts, they also have to guess, because I send out a secret token with it, and then they respond using that token. They'd have to guess that token as well, which is implausible. So, air-gapped computers, yeah. So basically, the firewall system works pretty well. And it also helps preserve the internet because we ran out of IP addresses a long time ago. And so all of the computers and things connected on Wi-Fi here all share the same IP address, the router's IP address. Okay, so the fact that we can still use IP version 4 is solely due to the fact that we used widespread natting, network address translation, so that instead of 20 devices having 20 IP addresses, there's one. And then the firewall keeps track of, okay, my cell phone is connected to Reddit right now, and so when it responds using that same token that I sent out, okay, that goes to the cell phone. And then if I connect to Reddit on my PC here, and that goes out, and Reddit responds with that token, okay, that goes to Bill's computer. And so the firewall just kind of keeps track of outgoing connections, so that when anything incoming comes in that's responding to it using the same token, then it's like, okay, you go to you, and you go to you, and stuff like that. So it works out pretty well. You don't even notice it in most cases. You'll only notice it if you're trying to do like a peer-to-peer networking game or something like that. And then there's different hacks you have to do to sort of bypass firewalls. So you basically have both computers. Like if you want to do a direct connection, like on Skype or something like that, like what happens is that Skype sends a message. Like you connect to Skype, Skype sends a message saying, "Hey, talk to your buddy. Here's their IP address," and you send them a message, and then they do the same to them, and they send you a message, and then the firewalls kind of open up because they're like, "Oh, there's a message from that person, and you're responding to it now." And so there's like tricks you can do to kind of do a firewall bypassing kind of thing from a legitimate standpoint. It can make things annoying if you're trying to do peer-to-peer stuff. Peer-to-server is easy because I connect to the server and the server responds. It's fine. But if you ever want two people on the same server to talk to each other directly, you have to do these like tricks to get, because nobody can do the first packet, right? The first packet would get bounced. So you have to set them up to send packets at the same time and kind of fool them into, allowing the connections in. What's better, IPv4 or IPv6? IPv6 is better. It's the IP of the future, and it has been for almost 30 years now. any year now, it'll be the year of IPv6. Let me tell you. No, it came out like when I was in college, and I was real excited for it. I read all up on it. I bought a book on it. 25 years ago. My first. I was in the dorms, freshman year of college. I read all up on it and how it worked, and I was excited to see it any day now. Any day now. Yeah, and so even today, IPv6 is not supported by vast amounts of the internet. I used to be on Uverse. I switched to Comcast. You might remember earlier in the semester, and Uverse had an issue where they were causing my Raspberry Pi to fail. If you ever sent more than like 5K of data in a second at once, it would shut down the connection. I don't even know why they did that. I think it's just to keep people from running hosts or something. Like AT&T would literally just like drop the outgoing connections, drop the outgoing packets. And so you could connect to the server and it would work. You could type ls and work. But if you typed ls and there are too many files in the directory, it would freeze and drop the connection. And that's how bad it was. And I was having my students do programming on it, and it worked fine as long as you didn't hit page down too quickly, and then Uverse would be like, nope, sucks for you, and drop their connection. So I switched. It was Bell probably remembers that. I went crazy. I thought I bought a new Raspberry Pi. I thought my Ethernet card was defective. I thought it was something on my end. And I was like, I was trying all sorts of things on my end. No, it was Uverse. I know a lot of ISPs don't like when people self-host websites. Yeah, and so in order to get around that, I set up IPv6 on my Raspberry Pi and had students connect that way, and that caused all sorts of problems because so much of the internet's still not ready for IPv6 after 25 years. It's disgusting, in my opinion. Like Windows didn't even support it for years. Like Windows didn't have any support for IPv6 for like 6 years or something like that. Yeah. It was a fun semester with all that. Yeah. And so with IPv6, it would work fine. But then you had issues with like people in Oakhurst not being able to connect over IPv6. And I was just like, oh my Lord. Such a pain. So, and I think my Comcast router doesn't support IPv6 either. Or it doesn't support firewalling or something like that. Let's see here. Here's my... maybe I should show that here. Yeah, I've got an IPv6 address here. But I think the firewall doesn't firewall IPv6 or something like that. Like, it just doesn't support it. It's bizarre. Utterly bizarre. All right, so yeah, air gaps are when you have no network access, especially to the internet. Okay, have you ever seen like Mission Impossible when the guy's like, the guy's like hanging from the cable? That famous shot there. So this is an air-gapped computer. So basically, this computer here has a record of all the secret agents and the MI6 or whatever it's called, and they have weight sensors on the floor, so that if somebody walks in, an alarm goes off. And so Tom Cruise came in through the ceiling vent and suspended in the air, logged in on the computer. I don't know how, like, they wouldn't have an alarm on the computer itself, but you know, there you go. But this computer is air-gapped, so it's in a Faraday cage, no electromagnetic radiation in or out, you know, somehow, and somehow there's no login screen. I don't know. And anyhow, so he comes in and accesses data on an air-gapped computer this way. And it's actually a pretty common. It's a pretty common tactic. Like, I have friends that work in security, and it's fairly common if you need something. Seems like an elevator would be easier. I don't know. Yeah. So he doesn't set off the alarms on the floor. You don't have a video camera in there. You got pressure plates. You don't have a video camera. Like, come on. I don't know. Yeah. If the room's locked down, just turn the computer off. I don't know. You know, like, because when there's nobody in the room, you know, they have these pressure sensors. Just like cut the power. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Somebody logs, you know, you lock the door, power goes off. Easy. Nobody can access it. You know? So motion detection, yeah, you'd think. I don't know. I don't know. It seems like an enormously elaborate security system with some very glaring problems with it. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen it. Maybe they disabled the motion sensors or something. I don't know. But yeah, air gaps are pretty safe. They're not that safe. For example, the Israelis hacked the Iranian nuclear program through an air gap. So that was a very, very interesting hack. Salah, did you hear about that? Just walk in the front door, say you're a maintenance worker. Yeah. Hey, they hired me to wax the pressure sensors. Can you turn them off? That's all you need to do. So Kevin Mitnick did a lot of social engineering kind of stuff like that, where he'd be like, "Hey, this is Kevin from IT. Hey, can you log in right now? We're having issues with the server. Can you log in?" And they log in, like, "Yeah, okay, all right. What's okay? Yeah, all right. So you're Ethan123, right? Yeah. Hey, can you give me your password? I'm gonna try logging in as you, because I can't log in as me, and I'm in IT. Oh, sure, yeah. My password is password123. All right, cool. Thanks, Ethan. Oh yeah, it works. Okay, weird. It must be something on my end. All right, thanks a lot, Ethan. I appreciate it. You know, and that was Kevin Mitnick's whole thing. Like, it wasn't like technical hacking. You know, some of it was, but like a lot of what Kevin Mitnick did was social engineering. You just if you pretend to be confident and things like that, you can walk around a building, you know, and talk to people, and people by nature are very trusting. And if somebody seems to be a cheerful kind of person, you know, if you walk in all sketchy, like, you know, you're like sticking your head around corners and things like that, they're like, "Who's that guy in the trench coat there?" You know, and call security on you. But if you walk around like you belong, like, you know, I've done this before, you know, nobody questions you, right? Yeah, you know, I've been in like military bases, and you know, legally, right? Like, I was invited there, and, you know, I'm talking to the colonel or whatever, and I'm like, "Hey, can I go to the restaurant?" "Sure." And then I'm just like walking around the base, and everyone's just like, oh, you know, nodding to me. I'm like nodding back at them, and there's like all this high tech, you know, secret stuff going on. I'm just like walking around, like, oh, you know, I'm not in uniform or anything like that, but I look like I belong, and nobody questions you. You know, if you can pull off the right attitude, you know. And so Kevin Mitnick made his hacking career out of that. He would just walk around a building and be like, hey, could I borrow you for a second? You know, hey, I'm trying to wire up the Ethernet in this building here. Can I check to see what gateway you're connected to here? Oh, sure. And you'd slide over and okay, all right, you're on that one. Weird. No, I don't think that's. We're gonna have to reconfigure that. Hey, could you give me like 10 minutes? I'm gonna have to redo this because we're gonna have to pull wires to the ceiling and redo it. Is it okay, or I can come back to it? Oh, now it's fine. Okay, cool. And the person would leave, and he would just sit there and download crap off their computer or whatever. You know, like that was his whole game, was social engineering mostly. So, Israeli spyware used to target phones of journalists and activists. Nope, not that one. Different case involving Israel. So the way that Israel got around an air gap was they dropped USB drives like this, you know, in the parking lot of where the Iranian nuclear workers were. Or no, actually, that's actually a different story. No, they FedExed them USB drives, and so the USB drive said, you know, pay records for 2021, and they're like, oh, I want to see how much my workers are getting paid. Click, plug it in, and because Windows is stupid, Windows will automatically execute any program you have on a USB drive when you plug it in. So, so you just FedEx a bunch of USB drives. Some of the people are dumb enough to do it. It secretly installs a virus on the computer. Doesn't crash their computer, doesn't anything. The person looks at the files, takes it out, forgets about it. Now the virus is in the system. It's bypassed the air gap, right? Not on the internet at all. All you need to do is mail them a USB drive. You don't even have to get them to double click an executable. Because most people aren't dumb enough to do that, you know. But Windows, for whatever reason, was like, yeah, well, because this comes from like the CD-ROM days, where you like put a CD-ROM in and it auto plays whatever, right? You guys remember that? You like, I don't know if you're old enough for that, but like you put in your installation CD, and then you go, you know, and then it would launch the installation screen, right? That was the convenience that was one of the worst security decisions I've ever seen in my life, because all you have to do to hack somebody is give them a CD-ROM with the auto exec set to be some virus. You stick it in and it runs the virus for you. Thanks. You know? So, do they ever change anything executing on a USB? I don't know. I haven't seen if Windows 11 has done anything like that. I certainly hope so. It was one of the dumbest decisions I've ever seen in my life from a corporation. And it was a known security issue. This isn't like a mistake. It wasn't like nobody thought of it or warned them about it. It was a deliberate decision they made to compromise security in the interest of convenience, because people couldn't figure out how to run an installation program on a CD-ROM unless it ran automatically. So, yeah, it's common procedure in security to actually put rubber cement into USB ports. Like I said, I have a friend who works doing high-tech security at a military base. And yeah, they'll take out the rubber cement and they'll put glue into the USB drive so nobody can use it, you know. And they confiscate everyone's phones when they come in. All the phones, all your smartwatches, all that stuff, tablets, all that goes into a locker. And the lockers are kept a hike away from where they actually do their work. So you check in, you ditch all of your stuff, and then you walk across an open field where guys have guns, you know, it's like a prison yard. And then you go into a building there, and that building is a quarter mile away from everything else. And so you can't do electronic signal interceptions as well. And you go in there, and you swipe in and stuff like that, and you do your work in the secure facility there. And whereas most places on the base, if the power goes out, they fail open. So if you cut power to a military base, all the doors open, except for the ones in the top secret areas. They fail shut. And so you could die. You know, power goes out, there's a fire, you're dead. That's just how it is. Sucks to be you. Don't die. Don't be there on the day that there's a fire. You know. So so how do they connect an isolated network to the internet? They don't. They didn't need to. You see, at the Iranian site that they hacked, that's where they were doing their centrifuges, and so centrifuges were run using SCADA. Basically, they were running centrifuges to enrich uranium, right? And what the Israelis did was this virus would discover other hosts on the network and infect them, and infect them, and infect them. And they were looking for the SCADA systems. And SCADA systems are not highly secure. And so what the virus did was, once it found the control mechanisms for these centrifuges, they would spin them a little bit faster. Not enough that you would even notice. You could be in the room, you wouldn't even know that the virus was active, but it would run it outside of its parameters. It would run too fast and too hot, and after a week or two of that, they would burn out. And because of the technology export restrictions to Iran, they had trouble acquiring new parts for centrifuges quite deliberately. That's the whole point of the embargo, is to keep the Iranians from getting the equipment they need to enrich uranium to make nuclear bombs or nuclear power. And so by very subtly spinning a little bit faster, a little bit slower, and going outside of the recommended parameters for the centrifuges started burning out quite quickly, a lot faster than they're not supposed to. And then they just had to keep getting replacement parts, and if they couldn't, then it slowed the whole Iranian development of the nuclear program down. And it wasn't for years then until one of these viruses escaped from the lab. Essentially, somebody probably put a USB drive in and infected it. They took it out, and somebody discovered it, and they did a whole bunch of reverse engineering on it. And people were like, "What the hell is this? This is an amazing virus," so to speak. And everyone suspected it was a joint American and an Israeli operation. And but of course, both countries denied it until an Iranian general and their equivalent of the NSA was retiring, and they had a PowerPoint presentation, and they were going over all of his achievements. And one of the slides was this hack on the Iranian nuclear program, and everyone's like, "We knew it. We knew you did it." So yeah, quite sophisticated attack, quite intelligent. Maybe not putting it on your retirement, but at that point, who cares? I'm retiring, who cares? But yeah, like the Israelis, they've been assassinating Iranian nuclear researchers. They they used to do all these really high tech hits, and then they just started pulling up next to people in traffic and spraying them with bullets and driving off on a moped. If there's heavy traffic, what are you going to do? Like, you're stuck there, you can't move. Guy pulls up next to you on a motorcycle, puts 100 bullets in, drives off. You can't chase him, And but one of the more recent assassinations they did was using a robot-controlled sniper rifle. And so the head of the Iranian nuclear program was assassinated by robot. And so this is like a whole new world as well. He went on vacation, and they knew which route he was going to go on. And so they set up a robot with a gun and computer controlled from Tel Aviv or whatever. And when the guy came down the road, killed him. He had a truck full of bodyguards heading behind, but every single one of the bullets, right on him, So yeah, so we're in a new era of robot assassins and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they find the thing, and there's the gun. The thing was also set to self-destruct, which is interesting. So they put explosives there, and then after the assassination was carried out, they hit the button. It detonated, but it didn't destroy it very well because it's a giant metal gun. And then the Iranians found it and reverse engineered it. And they're like, "Oh, look, all the Israelis need to do to assassinate us now is to airdrop a robot somewhere, into bushes, and then it can just kill people, So yeah, so you don't need to have a hitman. You don't need to have what's his name? Will Smith. What was that movie? Gemini Man. So you don't need Will Smith shooting people through a train. I don't know if they have a shot of it. But like Will Smith assassin, like there's this train flying by the high-speed rail, and he puts a bullet, goes right in through the window, and takes the guy out. Yeah, you know, you don't need Will Smith anymore. You just need a robot. You just pair drop it. Pair drop it in. If you know somebody's coming down a route, which you can do with, you know, if you have enough signals intelligence, you can know, hey, that person's going to vacation next week. Where are they going? Oh, they're going there. Okay, just put an air, you know, drop it in the bushes somewhere. Face recognition. They knew his car, right? And so presumably some human assets were like, yeah, he's on his way. And then they probably had some drone operator or something actually, you know, giving the signal for the gun to fire. Yeah, that's the era we live in now. All right, so yeah, there's information security, physical security, locks, ID badges, searching people. Like my buddy, he's every person. He knows every person. Every time they come in, they get patted down. Everything in their pockets gets taken out. You know, they're not allowed to smuggle anything in or out. You know, no papers can come in or out. You know, you do your work in the building over there. You know, and it stays there. You can't take it home. You know, so yeah. Separate machines. Yeah. So if you know anything about how like top secret works in the U.S. government, you've got machines that are kind of like cleared to work on classified material, and then you've got non-secured networks and non-secured computers, and you're supposed to keep them very separate, right? You're not supposed to take any of your top secret stuff and put it on your home PC, you know, or take it even in the same office. If you go over to the computer on the internet, you're not supposed to have a USB drive with your, you know, files of all the secret agents in the CIA. You're not supposed to put that into the USB drive on your internet-facing Twitter account or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's not supposed to be any way of doing that. And like I said, that's why they do things like sealing up USB drives. All the communications out of it are carefully constrained and things like that as well. Cryptography is used extensively. Cryptography, when done right, only allows the recipient or an authorized person to view the data. Right. So, yeah, OPSEC. This is actually my buddy's icon on Facebook before he got banned from Facebook for supporting Kyle Rittenhouse. Facebook made the decision that Kyle Rittenhouse was guilty, and any post in support of him was supporting domestic terrorism, and they banned his account. So cool. So operational security, communication security, information security, and personnel security. So check, you know, do background checks on your people. If they have large gambling debts, don't give them top secret access, right? Like, why were homosexuals not allowed top secret access, right? This is why Turing ended up committing suicide, was because they found out that he was homosexual and chemically castrated him. Alan Turing, one of the fathers of computer science, right? One of the reasons why we won World War II was because of Alan Turing. And it was because back then being a homosexual opened you up to blackmail. And so, you know, a Russian spy could be like, yo, I'll tell everybody you're gay unless you divulge the secrets of MI6 to us. And so nowadays, that's not considered like, oh no, right? Nowadays, it's not considered a security risk anymore. But things like gambling debts are, because you owe money to the mob. The mob can be like, yo, just give us some of these top secret guns from, you know, from your military base or something. Our table is broken. What? Yeah, and so basically you got to keep track of all these things if you're going to be doing high tech, high security stuff. Yeah. So oh yeah, and the way that the Israelis got in the Stuxnet attack, which is what I was telling you about. the way that they got in was through a 0-day attack on Windows. The NSA and the Israelis had several. Actually, I think it's maybe like 2 or 3 different. They had 2 or 3 different 0-day vulnerabilities that nobody had found before in Windows, and so they're able to exploit the Windows operating systems. Neither is admitted responsibility. It's widely understood to be a cyber weapon built by the U.S. and Israel, known as the Operation Olympic Games. Yep. It ruined a fifth of all of their centrifuges, infected over 200,000 computers, and caused 1,000 machines to degrade. So yeah, if you want to read about Stuxnet, it's honestly like just an incredibly complex operation they pulled off. All right. So yeah. So even though all of their Windows machines were up to date with the latest security patches, didn't matter. They had security vulnerabilities that nobody knew about. Okay. So other examples of hacking, electronic voting machines, which are a terrible idea. They're absolutely terrible idea. The only electronic voting machines that I support are those that generate a paper ballot, right? Where it prints out and you can look at it, be like, I voted for Gary Johnson or whatever, I voted for, and it shows you all the things, and you take that over and put it in the thing. That's fine. But any system that electronically reports the results only, no trust whatsoever. One of my buddies, when I was in college, one of his lab mates made a study out of how many vulnerabilities you could find in electronic voting machines. And the answer was yes. All of them. They're incredibly insecure. And do you think they'll make something more secure than paper ballots? Honestly, as long as the electronic voting machine generates a paper ballot and you can look at it and verify it, then I've got no problem with it. Because if they hack it and somebody can test the results, all you have to do is look at the digital results and look at the paper results, because you have to retain those, and see if, it'll be pretty obvious if somebody hacks it that way. So you can keep the convenience of it, having instant results and no scanning errors and things like that. But if it's all digital, which a number of elections I've been to here in California, they're all digital. Some of them I've been to print a paper ballot also, but a lot of them I went to were all digital, and I don't trust those at all. It's like, all right, cool, I'm voting for so-and-so. Cool. I don't know if it actually recorded that or not. You have to trust the paper's going to the right place as well. Yeah, but that's two different means of failure, right? Like, you've got one, the electronic voting machine reporting through the computer system, and then the paper goes into your local poll watcher, And so they would have to compromise not only the electronic system, which is one point of failure for the entire state, or whoever, uses that system, but they'd have to compromise every set of poll watchers as well, which is a much more daunting task. So, yeah. I've seen reports of alleged examples of electronic voting fraud. None of them I found to be very convincing. For example, Berkeley did a study after the 2004 election where George W. Bush won re-election, where they alleged that the voting machines were hacked. This was the basis of the Scandal TV show, by the way. If you were... What was her name? Shonda Rhimes was the... Have you guys ever seen this show? It's got the girl from Lock and Key. He's the hacker dude. His actual techno babble is actually pretty good. I was actually pleasantly surprised that a show which is basically about an affair between a crisis PR person and the president actually had surprisingly good computer science in it. Although it is a bit unrealistic. She's like, how long will it take you to hack into the NSA? He's like, half an hour. It's a bit ridiculous in that. But like, the actual techno babble that he spits out is actually surprisingly good, at times at least. So anyhow, the premise of the show was that the president was elected through hacking electronic voting machines. And that's like the big scandal for name of the show for season 1. The paper by Berkeley, though, alleged the fraud by predicting how people should vote, and when the votes didn't turn out the way they predicted, they alleged fraud. Sorry, like that's not good enough for me. You know what I mean? Like, and I ran through some of their numbers, and they posted their equations, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, no, because like they predicted 120% voting for Bush, or you know what I mean? Like that's not even numerically possible. Like you can't have 120. Like it doesn't like 120% doesn't even. It's not even possible for it to have turned out that way. So I've never seen any actual evidence that there was electronic voting fraud, but it was widely alleged after the 2004 elections, and based on from everything I've seen, like if you leave this guy alone with a voting machine for about 10 seconds, he can make it do anything you want, you know? Just go into a booth, plug a USB drive in, because why are they not sealed up? Nope, plug a USB drive in, automatically installs the virus. It'll now vote the way you want it to. Cool, good times. Enigma was Alan Turing, father of computer science, one of the fathers of computer science. Every side that loses alleges voting fraud, right? So it's not just Democrats, right? This is a big thing after this last election as well. So Enigma was how the German government communicated with its troops securely, and Turing broke it, and that gave the Allies an enormous advantage over the Nazis. The U.S. also hacked the Purple Code by the Japanese government. That's their naval cipher. So they had a cryptography system for their navy, and the U.S. hacked it, and were able to find out the location of all the ships the Japanese had. Oops. You know, that's actually really important. You know, when you're fighting a battle and you know where all their ships are, that gives you a tremendous advantage. It even still, like the U.S. nearly flubbed a number of engagements, even though they knew where the Japanese were and how much forces they had and things like that. Battle of Lake Gulf. Midway could have gone either way. Midway was really a turning point in the war. And that was like if you've gone through the Battle of Midway, like that was a close one. You know what I mean? So Purple Cipher wasn't deciphered, I think, prior to Pearl Harbor, or at least I don't think they knew that Pearl Harbor was happening. That was there's like 9/11 truthers. There was like people who believed that Pearl Harbor, like the government allowed it to happen. It's conspiracy though. There's no evidence they knew that it was going to happen. The breaking of the Purple Code and Enigma made a massive difference in World War II. Battle of Midway was a real close one. Yeah. It came down to just a couple pieces of luck, honestly, really. And then later on, like Battle of Lake Gulf and things like that, like the U.S. very nearly lost also. The Japanese, despite having this Purple Code broken. So Stingray, you can spoof a cell phone tower. So your cell phone will connect to whichever tower is closest, right? So if you want to hack somebody, what you do is you set up a Stingray, which pretends to be a tower. And then your cell phone's like, oh, wow, look at how close that one is. I'm going to connect that one. Now it's routing all of the internet traffic through that. Cool. And if there's anything you can do with that, you can find out like which hosts they're talking to. Even if it's encrypted, unless you're using Tor or something like that, they will, or a VPN, they will know what host you're talking to, right? And if you're not that secure, they might even be able to intercept your emails and your communications and your phone calls and things like that. And all they have to do that is park a truck outside of your apartment complex or something, and then your cell phone will go through it. So let's see if I've seen various memes of like who knows. floral trucks outside of your house that have these giant satellite antennas on it and stuff like that. Is Tor actually good? Didn't the Navy make it? Yeah, it was designed for that. The Tor has been compromised at times. The whole point of Tor is that you connect to a Tor node, and then all the routing on the internet goes through Tor, and then it comes out the other side, and they don't know that you're connected to Wells Fargo, right? Because right now, even if you have a secure connection to Wells Fargo, they know you're connected to Wells Fargo because they see the packets going back and forth between you and Wells Fargo. And so, like, if let's say that someone's on Discord making death threats to the president, right? And you locate the IP address as being at a library, the Woodward Park Library or something. You go there and you type a message to them like, "Hey, who is this?" And the person types back, "Oh, it's me." And you can see when the packets go, even if you can't read them. The packets are going, and then the words appear. "Oh, it's me," and then you're like, "Okay, it's that IP address right there," and then you run over and grab the person or whatever, right? So, yeah, Tor is always a good idea, and VPNs also do the same thing because you connect to a VPN node, and then all your routing goes through that to the other end, so they don't know which host you're connected to. So VPNs and Tor are both good ideas, but they involve trusting Tor and trusting the VPN. And so the Chinese government, for example, has bought a lot of VPN providers. They don't tell you that, right? So, and Tor has been compromised. Like I said, the Tor system only works if the hosts are actually not. Because what happens is you connect to Tor, and then they bounce connections around inside of it. But if all those hosts inside of it are run by the NSA, guess what? They have a record. If where the thing goes, and they know where the packet's coming from and going to, and that's been done before. So, but as long as some of the hosts are legitimate, then it works. So, triangulating from quiescent phones. So this is a quiescent phone. Looks like it's off, right? It's not off. Right? It's not off. Battery's not out. Just quiescent. Even still, you can find out my address based on me having my phone on me, even though it's not on right now. Okay? And the way they do that, there's several ways. First of all, if my GPS is on, that's simple, right? But just from the fact, because your cell phone, like, people have to be able to call me, right? And so my cell phone is checking in constantly with the cell phone towers, like, "Hey, is anyone calling me?" "Nope." "All right, cool." "Hey, is anyone calling me?" "Nope." "Okay, cool." And your cell phone broadcasts a signal, right? And so let's say you have three cell phone towers nearby, and it's like, "Oh, it's really close to this one. Oh, it's like medium close to this one. Oh, it's like far from this one." Then what you can do is you can triangulate locations, right? So what you can do is, based on how far away from different cell phone towers you estimate the cell phone to be, you can figure out the location to within a pretty good degree of error. It's not as good as GPS, but basically you can know within maybe 10 meters, something like that, where someone is, and then you can drop a cruise missile on them if you want, right? So based on, because one cell phone tower can't do it. One cell phone tower can say, "All right, so-and-so's cell phone is probably 50 meters from me," and that's a circle, right? But if you get enough circles, then you can show where the point of intersection is of the three circles. And so you can actually get it reasonably precise enough to drop a bomb on them. And so that's my advice to you, is turn your cell phone all the way off, and ideally pull your battery out. If you're worried about the government dropping a cruise missile on you. Yeah. Or you can Google search them, one or the other. But at any time, anybody who has access to Verizon's, data can find out where you are. It's pretty easy. Even if your phone's off. Not off, but off. Okay. Yep, head of Hamas. What was it, a year ago, beginning of 2020, they assassinated the general in Iran, right? So what was that guy's name? So he was in Iraq, and they took him out. Yep. So nowadays, cell phones, you can't pull the battery out either. So good luck. Hope that when it says it turns off, it's actually off. Probably is. But there have been hacks where things just pretend to turn off that aren't off. Airplane mode, good luck. Airplane mode gets ignored all the time. If you turn on airplane mode, it'll still leave on. It'll still like I forget what it is. Apple is really bad at this, but Google does it too. So it actually will still pay attention, like Wi-Fi nodes and things like that, doing location tracking and things like that. iOS airplane mode. Yeah. Anyway. Yep. We're not using it fun. Leave it in the shed in the backyard. Yeah. Put it in a Faraday cage. Tinfoil around your phone. Yeah. All right. Tempest, and we'll stop with this. So Tempest is an older term, but still used to refer to all sorts of electromagnetic radiation hacking. And so, computer monitors used to be CRTs. You guys know what I'm talking about? Ever seen an old movie? These things? Televisions used to be this way too. So the way they work is that there is a magnet, and there's an electron gun. The electron gun shoots electrons, hence the name, and then the magnet deflects the electron in different directions. And original black and white TVs, it would just direct it to a phosphor. The phosphor would glow white when it's struck, dark when it's not struck, and the electron gun would just sweep electrons across the screen and repeat over and over again, and you would have a monitor. When you got color, it would hit individual phosphors, red, green, and blue phosphors, and you get a color image produced. It's funny. So that magnet, though, generates electromagnetic radiation. So in order to produce an image on the screen, you had to have the thing producing a signal that's broadcast. And so all you had to do was set up an antenna in a nearby room, and you could see on your screen what they had on their screen. And I've actually heard of Tempest systems. Can you read this? This image is captured with the light sensor from the high frequency focus cathode ray tube. Sure, does it diffuse for light? Yeah. So this is actually looking at reflections off a wall to recreate an image. But like what you could do is have somebody nearby. So for example, if you want to see what's in somebody's got on their screen, you can pull up your truck outside of their office. Even better, you make it a taco truck, so everybody loves you being there. They don't question why you're there. You just are selling tacos at a reasonable price, at a good some beer. And then what you do is you train your antenna on the office of the person you want to spy on. And then as there are things displaying things on the screen, you get to see what they're doing. And you don't have to be anywhere near them. You don't have to violate any of their personal security. You don't have to break in. You don't have to do any Mission Impossible stuff. All you have to do is just pick up the electromagnetic radiation coming out of their computer, and there you go. You can see what they're doing. And you just show up every day with your taco truck from 11 to 1, and 3 hours a day you can see everything that person's typing on their computer. And even after you leave, they'll invite the NSA back because those tacos are so damn good, And nowadays you don't have CRTs anymore, but still you have to have your secure systems, what are called Tempest certified, and there's different certifications and things like that to guarantee they don't produce readable electromagnetic radiation past a certain radius. And so what happens is, like if this monitor here is rated at a 10 meter range, then if I want this monitor to be used on a secure system, there has to be a physical isolation of 10 meters between this computer and any other person, right? 30 feet, that's pretty bad. Like that could probably stretch out, to the street, somebody in a side yard or something like that. And that's why, like when I said my buddy has the secure facility, they actually walk across an open field. And that's because that's to keep electromagnetic espionage from being possible. There's a physical distance because the signals degrade. There's the inverse square law, right? And so they have people with machine guns making sure nobody gets close enough to have an antenna and sit there and listen in on what's coming out of the signals. And they also have Faraday cages and things like that to block electromagnetic radiation as well. So acoustical hacking, last thing I'll talk about, and we'll be done with this. Hope you had fun today. Is every key on your keyboard makes a unique sound. I don't know if that came through, but didn't come through. Oh, I heard it. So yeah, every key on your keyboard makes a unique sound, and so what you can do is you can come by in the office and like, hey, Sally, how you doing? Hey, check out these photos of my daughter, man. They're you got to see this. Super cute, let's see here. Yeah, okay, all right. One second. All right, yeah, there's my daughter right there, and then you're like, hey, I gotta go. I'll catch you later. And then you leave your cell phone like behind his monitor, right? And then you leave, and you come back an hour later, like, oh, there it is. Oh, dang it, sorry about that. And you pick it up and you go. In the meantime, the cell phone's been recording all of the audio sounds of your keyboard. And with enough data, you can estimate, because people type the letter E more often than the letter Q, right? You can figure out the audio signature of every single one of the keys on your keyboard, given enough data. And then you can decipher it just like that Caesar cipher. You can decipher every keystroke the person made. And when they get to the part where they type in their username and their password, there it is. So, yeah. So, and, if there's audio recordings of you typing and things like that, yeah, security is interesting. It's an interesting field. I forgot my phone behind your computer every day for you. You don't need to. All you need to do is once. And if they log in using their username and password, there you go. You don't need to do it again, right? So, common attack vectors. I guess I'll just keep going. I don't care if you want to leave. It's fine. Targeting people is the easiest. People are the most vulnerable part of every organization. Sometimes corporations make dumb decisions, and that's one thing. But the human element's always the easiest part to come after. Okay. But yeah, you can try introducing a virus. You go into the parking lot, you drop a manila envelope saying, payroll 2021, and people will they'll take it in and put the USB drive in and compromise their computer that way. Intercepting and spoofing communications are more of a nation-level threat. Password attacks are pretty common. My server constantly gets hammered by people trying to guess passwords. So they'll try logging in, username, Bob, password, Bob. Sorry, password done. Okay. Username Bob, password Bob1. Username Bob, password 2. And they just hammer my server 24/7 trying to guess passwords. And that's why I have fail to ban installed, so that if an IP address hits me up and fails 5 times, they get banned for 15 minutes. And so sometimes affects students who can't remember their password, and you guys get banned for 15 minutes. Well, it's only 15 minutes. It's not that big a deal. Sql injection attacks are pretty common as well. It's very common for websites, especially that do SQL accesses, to not be well hardened, and so you can pass in like closed, essentially like a closed bracket, and that'll end the query, and then you type in a new query as your username, and then it'll dump the things to your screen. My favorite hack along those lines was I was on Cisco's website. Cisco is the people who make the routers that make the internet go, right? I'm on Cisco's website. Yeah, the little Bobby tables. That's a classic example. I was on Cisco's website, and I'm looking at the post or get URL up top, and it has it was like I was entering my name and like a sign up for our mailing list kind of thing, and I hit submit, and it's like, first name Bill, last name Kearney, get or retrieve records, send or receive records equal to true. I was like, that's interesting. They have a Boolean called, am I sending in a new record or retrieving records? I was like, that's really interesting. I wonder what happens if I change it to the other way around. And guess what happens if you change it to the other way around? Or did. I told them about it and they fixed it. Anyone want to guess? If you change the flag to, do you want to submit data or retrieve data? Anyone want to guess? Bank's not handling emojis or the account names. Get all data being submitted server-wide. Yes, the Cisco website dumped the complete database of every contact they had to my web browser. Every name, every phone number, every address, physical address, who they worked for, everything. Like tens or hundreds of thousands of records I didn't count. And I was just like, like it was just up there in the URL. Like I just got to see what happens. And I change a true to a false or a false to a true. I don't even remember. Hit return. It's like, bloop, there you go. I was like, oh wow, that's a problem. And I mail it to them. I'm like, you should probably fix this. Like this is probably a really bad idea. And this is Cisco, the company that makes the routers, and they have Cisco certifications for like security and stuff like this, right? Right. So the people that do this, and I'm just like, what? Why would you, enter? Okay, I want to enter. Okay, all right. Oh, we gotta do this. All right. Company name. It's probably going to be yeah, they don't have it up here now. Let's see. Yeah, I don't have the right extension installed, but yeah, you could look at the post. You can use like a burp. What's it called? Burp. So you can view what was actually submitted and change it if you want. Just because they don't show it in the URL anymore doesn't mean that it's still good. It just doesn't. It's not immediately obvious what they're doing. It's still just as secure or not, whether it's in the URL or not. So, yeah. No, this is the people that really should have known better. You know what I mean? They really should have known better. And if they can make this kind of mistake, anyone can. You know what I mean? So, Metasploit will do port scanning and find vulnerabilities. You can spoof Wi-Fi access points quite easily, obviously. Like, we've all set up Wi-Fi access points. And so all you have to do is set up an access point called Starbucks if you're living next to Starbucks, and then people will connect to your free Wi-Fi, and then you can sniff their packets and things like that, and see if there's any usable information in it and stuff like that. They fixed it. Couldn't use the Wayback Machine to go. The Wayback Machine's not going to have a copy of their database, because their database has an internal, like the website, maybe, but it's not going to have access to that database connection anymore. So, yeah. All right, so that's it for today. Hope you guys had fun. Post any requests for Friday. I'll probably have to go over exceptions at least a little bit on Friday. But now all things are fully secure. Yeah. It's maybe better these days. Two-factor authentication, I think, helps. I think it does help. It's kind of annoying. Like, I was in lecture for Fresno State today, and they're like, when's the final? And I couldn't log on because I didn't have my cell phone on me. Because Fresno State enables two-factor authentication, and I don't have the means to turn it off. And I'm like, I don't know where my cell phone is. Sorry, I can't tell. I don't have that information for you right now. I had to have a student go on to log on to Canvas and look for me. You know. But yeah, security I would argue is better these days. Maybe. Yeah. Overall, better. You know, it's still not great. But there's still lots of vulnerabilities and lots of ways that people get hacked. Had so much today. People listening to keyboard sounds, yeah. No. Fortunately, that requires a little bit more effort than most people are willing to go to. You know, most of the people trying to hack you they're just spamming attacks all over the internet, just trying to get lucky, and they don't care because they're going to get lucky, if not with you, with someone else. And then they turn your machine into a botnet node, and use it to DDoS people and stuff like that. All right. Yeah, I could listen to a security talk for a few hours. Yeah. Well, that's it for now. All right, so I'll catch you guys on Friday. All right. Peace out. Glad you had fun.